Peace and love. My name is Henry Thomas. Thank you for tuning in to my new YouTube channel. My old YouTube channel will be up and running 2 weeks from now, right? It was a couple of complications, a couple of violations, but that issue is being fixed right now. So I thought it would be, wise to create a new channel just to keep things going, to keep this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, regurgitating out my body to y'all, right? For those who don't know, I am the author of Think Beyond Your Surface, nonfiction memoir, available at all bookstores. This book right here is very powerful. I use my experience in prison, the streets, my household, how I was raised up, things of that nature, relationship, marriage, conflict resolution. This book right here is very powerful, 150-page book, very powerful. This book took me like 2 months to write. I was in solitary confinement, and and I got it done. But this is the result. Think Beyond Your Surface. Also, I have an autobiography, a product of my own environment, by me, Deshaun Hassan. Deshaun Hassan is my pen name. This book is about me in chronological order, from a small boy, a black boy, to a man being raised in America, where I went wrong in life, and how I was able to shape my identity. I talk about family structure all the way up to the streets, to the penitentiary. The do's and the don'ts, the wrongs and the right. The curse and the blessing. But this book is available in all bookstores also. Very good autobiography, very powerful. But today, I want to talk about my first independent book, The Ghetto Trying to Kill Me, Overcoming Black Mental Health, right? Control your mind. Don't let it control you. I like to get straight to my videos. I don't like to waste no time, right? So we're going to talk about mental health. For those who don't know, let's go. Mental health, black mental health. Black mental health, I say it is because I'm talking about my people, black Americans, right? I'm talking about black Americans. For those who don't know, mental health in the hood, in the ghetto, stems from being poor, being victims of systemic inequity, being victims of, being denied opportunities to grow, seeing violence in the hood, a lot of violence, gangs, and liquor stores on every corner. The crack era dismantled the household. I witnessed this with my own eyes at a very young age. Around 1983, this is when I started to notice the household in the hood, in the ghetto, in the black communities, the urban community just started to crumble, right? Crack era came out of nowhere. The man no longer was the man, the leader of the household. He stopped playing this role, and he was, in the streets. The man that led the household, he ended up in the alley somewhere, on side of a garbage can, smoking crack, doing drugs. He forgot his role as a man, but I can get off into that. But I want to talk about this mental health issue, right? I talk about myself in this book from my own experience. I'm only good at, describing and sharing what I've been through, and not somebody else's life, but I've been in the streets, really in them streets, committed crimes, and sold drugs, played with guns, having unprotected sex, and partying, drinking, and just being reckless out there, in my younger years, which led me to the county jail. I graduated from going to the county jail, and then I was sent to the big house for guns, unarmed robbery, assault charges, you know, accused of, things I didn't do, questioned by, detectives about, homicides and a bank robbery that I had nothing to do with. I've been under pressure, battle tested. I never broke at all, So I know how it is to be in that interrogation room. I know how it is to be sitting in solitary confinement for many years, I know how it is to be rejected from family, from the system, from, going against all these negative forces against me, just out in the wilderness with no support. Only the strong survive, But when I went to prison, right? When you go to prison, when you go to quarantine, right? That's the first step you go to. And I hope none of y'all ever go there. The system do assessment. They do a mental assessment on you. They do a health assessment. So they can know your status. And that way they can know what level to place you at, due to your crime, right? But when I got assessed in prison, right, it was recommended for me to take classes. I took a Thinking for Change class. That was for 6 months. And then I had a personal assessment and I had a behavioral health assessment, right? I never knew that I had PTSD, stress, anxiety, anger issues. I never knew that I had these things ran so deep within me. And this is what, caused me basically to look at myself and say, I gotta make a positive change, or I'm gonna either die in here in prison, I'm gonna end up killing somebody up in here in prison, or when I get released, I'm gonna end up, dying in the streets or killing somebody in the streets. So I had to make a decision. I'm just being rough and raw and straight blunt with it because that's the type of person I am. I don't know how to sugarcoat, but that's the real. It was either dead in the streets or life in prison. So I was forced to take a look at myself. I was sick and tired of going to jail, being in the streets. So, I say, I'm going to, after reading over 1,000 books in prison, I decided to start with this book here, my first book. I wrote this book in prison. It took me a few months. After reading over 1,000 prison books, I decided to write my own, to use my own experience. So this book is very, very personal. I had no distractions. Writing this book from front to back, it's a very powerful book. You are forced to look at yourself when you read this book. It will force you to handle unfinished business, what y'all call trauma, But this is a very powerful book, right? That was my first that I run in prison, right? So this right here is very deep book also. It is actually, I'm holding up a mirror. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read a few titles, I'm going to run through this. Got pictures in here. Got a picture in here. This is the paperback version also, but it's a hard copy version as well. My prison, one of my prison, IDs. Got a few pictures in here in the opening, but I have the introduction. Then I have, I talk about my grassroots or whatnot. And then I start off with prison. That's the first chapter. I start off with prison. And I show a prison where I was at right here, a maximum security prison. So I have a few pictures in here for y'all to look at. I had one of the projects in Chicago where I was born at, you know, in the Henry Horner homes. You know, I talk about alcohol in the ghetto in this chapter right here, as you can see. But this book right here is very powerful. Very powerful. Talk about alcohol in the ghetto. You know, I talk about why is Generation Z aging so fast. It's like these are topics that I talk about. Snitching in the ghetto, I talk about that. That's another chapter right there. Snitching in the ghetto. Give y'all a few more. Black people behaviors around non-black people. Now this is like one of the good ones that I was really into what I wrote. Black people behaviors around non-blacks, right? So I'm gonna stop right there. Basically, I'm talking about how, you know, when, you know, certain black people walk in the same room, instantly we look at them as an enemy or what that nigga up to. You know, like we don't look at this person as, you know, as a good person. He can have a suit and tie on. We just look at this person as an enemy, but then somebody else from a non-black person come in our presence, you know what I'm saying? We instantly embrace them. So I dig off into that also. But yeah, the ghetto trying to kill me. I'm just flowing through this. You know, I thought I'd take a few minutes out with y'all, but this book right here is very powerful. You can get this one on Amazon. You know, my first independent book. But yeah, mental health is real. And, you know, if you're not careful, if you're dealing with people, if you are in a relationship with somebody that has a mental health issue, you can end up having a mental health issue. If you are married to a person with a mental health issue, you can end up with a mental health issue as well if you're not careful, right? If you have a child with mental health issues, you know, you can also end up with a mental health issues. But the difference is, see, your partner could leave you, your wife or your husband could leave you, but you can't leave the child. You understand what I'm saying? And so this is why learning how to deal with people with mental health issues, because if you don't have the ethos and the education and skills about it, the understanding about mental issues that surround you, it can easily rub off on you. Mental health issues is very, very serious in the hood. Very, very serious in all cultures, really. But I'm just focusing on my people, you know. But mental health issues, it's in every race. But it's, you know, black mental issues, you know, need more attention. You understand what I'm saying? We need to pay that more attention, look in the mirror, and overcome these black mental health issues. Peace and love. More videos to come. Like, subscribe.